We travelled to Bath to find out about an exciting project that's taking place there.
Amongst the peaceful surroundings in picturesque Bath, there's an exciting project afoot. University of Bath is home to the International High Performance Centre, where the talent is there in abundance.
It's a really vibrant, dynamic training centre. We've got elite athletes from a whole variety of sports, together with university students and members of the community. We have actually over 2,000 children a week coming onto the site here, taking part in all different sort of sports activities and mingling with the elite athletes. So I just love the mix of sport at all levels and the vibrancy of the place. Tennis is one of our major focus sports. We have a great setup here and very proud of it. 5 or 6 coaches, some very good players, good collaboration with an international group as well, and a very good development programme with youngsters coming along here from across the southwest.
We've got about 300 adult members. We've got mini tennis for about 200 mini tennis players, and a further 150 junior development players, which aren't part of the academy, and then there's the 50 I added on. So I think the total number of people we're trying to help is about 500 or 600 players, with visitors and access players, and also the student community that we try and cater for as well. So the numbers get bigger. We get a good amount of funding from the LTA. They probably fund 50% or over of this centre, and they help build the facility as well. So recognise a lot of support from the LTA. We also receive, money from club programmes, ACE programme, apprenticeship schemes, and academy fees, from parents. They're obviously a big sponsor of the programme also. So it's obviously good to keep them well informed and educated of tennis.
I think it's a really good academy. The system's quite good here. I like the tennis. I like the players. The coaches are good as well. So yeah, that's why I come here with.
The MCTA is the Media Consultancy Touring Academy that joined us this January, that's headed up by Dave Samuel. We were really looking to see how we could strengthen our programme, and with Dave and his team it was the ideal fit, as he was looking for a UK base.
There's got to be an athletic ability there, decent timing, but I think a lot is to do when they're competing, that you see a real heart and desire to win matches.
I would dream to be a professional tennis player, world #1, represent Great Britain and Davis Cup.
Well, I'd love to be like #1 in the world.
What experience gives you is 100 ways of saying the same thing.
Hold that shape and they're ready to go.
I think our ultimate goal is obviously international high performance, to maintain that, to have players in the top 100, and we're getting close with a few players that have just joined ourselves in MCTA inside the top 300, so we're not too far away. In terms of the goal is to have mini tennis on one court all the way working through to top professionals. I think for me that is a complete sort of tennis centre, and we're not too far away at the moment, but it's still a couple of extra steps will probably be the hardest.
So an ambitious project. They seem to be enjoying themselves down there. You had a taste of exactly what's going on. Did you like the feel of what they're trying to achieve?
There's a great feel there, Marcus. What really struck me as soon as I walked into that centre, the first thing you see is the gym, and you've got the Bath rugby players doing the training, lifting the weights, certainly a lot heavier weights than I would have lifted when I was playing tennis, but along that you've got Amy Williams, who won the gold obviously a few weeks ago in the Winter Olympics. You've got performance athletes. So as a tennis player, if you're walking in at 9 o'clock in the morning, you're feeling a little bit grumpy, a little bit tired from the previous day, straight away you're inspired, which I think has to happen. You have to have an inspirational centre to get the best out of you. And when Barry, the director of tennis there, was saying, they've got 600 kits, we must stress they're not performance kits, because that's impossible to have, but you've got 600 kids who are playing tennis. More people playing tennis, you create an atmosphere, you create an environment, and then you just increase the levels. And that's what they're striving for down in Bath, and that's what has to happen all around the country, not just in that area of the country, but in London, in Manchester, in Birmingham, and wherever.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask how it fits into the overall scheme of things. If I've got it right, there are 16 high-performance centres and then 4 international centres. That is one of them, and the others are in, Welling, Loughborough and Bisham, I think. So how's it all working in terms of funneling the players through to the right centres and taking them on from there?
Well, what's traditionally happened in the last 5 or 6 years is these high-performance centres, which the LTA have decentralised, because they used to control the 5 or 6 regional centres around the country. Now they're independently run. That the players would then, at 16 years of age, go to the NTC at Roehampton. That's, from what I feel, probably shouldn't happen. I think they should stay with their programme, stay with their coaches, because the most important aspect of a player is the trust from the coach. They have to 100% know that that coach is behind them. But at the crucial ages of 16, 17, 18, if you're going off somewhere else, you might not have that relationship with that coach. You're through the difficult periods, you're going to lose a lot of matches, and that's where the self-doubt can really kick in. So keep them at that centre. But the knock-on effect of that, the positive effect, is, of course, then it helps the 13, 14, 15-year-olds, because if you're losing the players at 16, the 13, 14, 15-year-olds are going, I'm the best in this centre. Well, you shouldn't be the best. You should be looking to be better than the 17-year-olds and going up the pyramid.
But based on that, what use does the National Tennis Centre have in the way you would envisage it, if the players are going to stay for longer with their coaches in their home base?
Well, I think what the National Tennis Centre is at the moment is a place for the likes of Murray, the place for a lot of the women to go and play, but also, as the LTA uses, it's the centre, it's the hub of activity. But I feel the National Tennis Centre, why can't that be another international high performance centre? Because to me, coaches should be working with the players. That's where the buzz is. You're on court, that's where you can have the maximum effect.
OK. Well, of course, Andy Murray's going to be playing a little later this evening, and earlier he gave a little bit of advice to any up-and-coming young tennis players.
You seem to be so up on tennis and you follow it so exclusively. What kind of advice would you give to young players who are maybe looking at someone like yourself who's made the big moves? What kind of advice would you give them to make it in the big time, or to make it as a professional player?
I mean, you need to... I had a really bad injury when I was 16, 17. I had a problem with my knee, and I didn't play for 6 months. And I watched, on Sky, I watched all of the Masters series. They had Indian Wells, Miami, Monte Carlo. It was around that time when I was injured. It was like basically from January through May, June time. And I watched a load of tennis and watched the top guys, saw what they did, you know, how they moved, how they played. And, you know, it helped, obviously, to understand, you know, how you need to play the game, but also when I did get onto the tour, that helped me tactically a lot as well, to see, you know, I wasn't just watching to see, you know, how good the players were. I was watching, you know, to see how you can win against them, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and, you know, I would speak to my mum about it in the evening and talk about it, and that was kind of what I did when I was young, but you need to work hard and have the desire as well.
That's really interesting. So it was a little bit more about the tactical application that you picked up there. Did you pick up anything technical in your strokes or your shots from that kind of
No, the thing that's is kind of difficult with that, because you look at the top 100 players and no one has the same stroke. You know, it's not. There's no point trying to play the same or have the same strokes as Roger or Rafa, because everyone's completely different. You know, you need to have your own game style. There's basic things within the game that you need to do well. You know, and it's mainly sort of using your legs and staying balanced. You know, and then obviously you need to be able to hit the ball too and have good hands. But yeah, you can't focus too much technically on what the other players do, because everyone's different.
Oh, he's a great student of the game. That has always shone through right from the early days, and solid advice. He knows what he's talking about, obviously.
Great advice. My advice to anyone out there, if you can't be prepared to sit down for an hour, hour and a half and watch tennis, watch the best players play, how they use their strengths, how they cover their weaknesses, because every player has a few weaknesses, what they do in pressure situations, where they hit the ball when they're in certain positions on the court, I don't think you've got a hope of being a player. I really do believe that. You get the one or two exceptions like a Goran Ivanisevic who can serve at 150 miles an hour, but most players have to learn how to play the game, and if you can do that, and if you can be a student of the game, Andy clearly is. Tim, unbelievable student. I mean, you ask Tim what happened in 1982, he can tell you. I mean, because if you don't live and love the game, Marcus, I just feel it's going to catch you out. And Andy used that 6 months to great effect. And although obviously he wasn't able to hit the amount of tennis balls he would have wanted to, he improved this aspect. And I think it's all clear to see when he plays now that he's very, very smart on the court.
I know he's also spoken to you about coaching philosophy, and you touched on that just a few moments ago, but can you expand a little on what he said to you, I think, as you went to watch an Arsenal-Liverpool game together a few weeks ago?
Yeah, we won't talk about the football game, but yeah, he was saying that the one thing they have in Spain, obviously Andy did spend a little bit of time over there, it doesn't matter what coach you have over there, they have the same philosophy. If you go into any Spanish academy, they only have 4 or 5 drills. They're all the same, the basics are there. Where I think the common mistake we make in this country is we think it's rocket science. We're trying to find the magic cure that's going to produce a player. It's about getting out on court, doing your 3 or 4 hours, hitting plenty of balls, doing the right drills, and not complicating it. Because really, to simplify it, you actually want to hit one more shot in the court than your opponent. I mean, obviously, you need to be able to have attacking skills and you need to be able to move. But in essence, that's what the game is all about. And I feel that I think we need to keep it a lot simpler.
Why do you think we as a nation have started to overcomplicate things? Is it because we've had so little success that
I think so.
People are thinking, oh no, it's got to be more than this, and you keep twisting and tweaking things the whole time?
I think so. And you hear a soundbite from Nick Bollettieri, and then you might hear, 2 weeks later, you'll go back to your centre and go, well, it's got to be the Nick Bollettieri way. And then a couple of weeks later, you hear a soundbite from Brad Gilbert, and all of a sudden you change your tack. It's like a football manager. A football manager has to be consistent. If you're not consistent, the players are smart. The players talk. The players will go, well, hang on, my coach was telling me one thing one day, and then a couple of days later, he was telling me something else. I mean, Andy always does that. He challenges Miles. He challenges Jets. If they say something, he'll go back and think about it and come back the next day and say, but you said that to me. And they've got to justify it. So the coaches are always, they're on their...
Did you find when you were developing as a player that you were getting a lot of inconsistent advice from different people?
Yes, I would say so. I would say there was... Dave Samuel was the guy I worked with the last 3 or 4 years, and I would say that he was the only really real coach that truly understood me as a personality. And I think, to me, that's the art of coaching. That's what a coach has to do. The coach has to understand the player, because we're all different. I mean, Andy Murray's different to Nadal, who's different to Federer, who's different to Djokovic. You can't just have your one way of coaching and trying to get the best out of those 4 players. And whenever I speak to Miles, who works with Andy, it's about understanding Andy. You can't go in and tell Andy, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. I mean, what were you doing there? Because Andy's just going to shut down. You have to understand what the player is going through at certain stages, especially if you're looking at a junior who's 13, 14. They've got a lot of other difficulties that they're having to go through, difficult time at school, difficult time in terms of their development. They might be growing a lot, and as a coach you have to understand that.
So for those young players who may be listening and maybe thinking, there's 1 or 2 things I want to say to my coach that I don't quite know how to bring up. That's part of this whole deal, is it? Being proactive and having a relationship where both the coach and the youngster can feel so relaxed that they can talk to each other about anything.
Yes, bring it up. Don't go home and stew over it and go, oh, I wish I'd said that to my coach. Because the way I look at it, Marcus, if you're a 14 or 15-year-old and you can't tell your coach, or you don't feel confident enough to point something out to your coach, how are you going to be able to make that decision at, let's say, Junior Wimbledon in the quarterfinals? You might be playing on court 3 and the pressure's on and you're in front of the cameras. It's 4,000 people watching. You have to make a split-second decision. If you can't even have the confidence to speak to your coach, I'm sorry, I don't buy into it. You're going to have the confidence and the know-how to be able to make that decision when the heat is on. Interesting stuff. OK, well, Andy Murray will be on court very shortly. Just before we head out to the stadium amphitheatre, as they like to call it, in Miami, let's round up what else has happened so far today.